Growing up Black in America is a story that's been told 1,000 different ways, but rarely without filters. It's a story that's often flattened into headlines, hashtags, or Hollywood scripts, sometimes tragic, sometimes triumphant, but almost always missing the messy, complicated, everyday truth. The reality is, there's no single way to be Black in America. There are as many stories as there are people, and each one is shaped by family, community, geography, and the ever-present weight of history. But if you really want to know what it's like, you have to be willing to listen to the details, the moments that don't make the news, the feelings that don't fit into neat categories, the contradictions that define the life lived in the shadow and the light of race. It starts early. For many Black kids, the first lessons about race come not from textbooks, but from the world around them. Maybe it's the way a teacher looks at you when you answer a question, or the way a store clerk follows you around the aisles. Maybe it's the talk your parents give you about how to act if you're ever stopped by the police, or the way your mom tells you to keep your hands out of your pockets in public. Maybe it's the jokes you hear on the playground, or the way your hair is touched without permission, or the questions about where you're really from. These moments add up. They teach you that you are seen, but not always seen clearly, that you are different, and that difference matters. But growing up Black in America isn't just about struggle. It's about joy, too. It's about the laughter that fills a living room during a family reunion, the pride of seeing someone who looks like you on TV, the comfort of a church choir or a cookout or a barbershop. It's about the music, the food, the language, the style, the culture that is both a shield and a celebration. It's about the way Black families create spaces of safety and love in a world that can feel hostile. It's about the way Black kids learn to move through the world with confidence, creativity, and a sense of humor that can turn pain into power. School is often the first real test. For some, it's a place of opportunity. A chance to learn, to make friends, to dream big. For others, it's a battleground. Black students are more likely to be disciplined, suspended, or expelled from their white peers, even for the same behaviors. They're more likely to be tracked into lower-level classes, less likely to have teachers who look like them, and more likely to have their intelligence or ambition questioned. The achievement gap is not just about test scores. It's about the daily grind of proving yourself, of fighting to be seen and heard. But school can also be a place of resistance. Black kids learn early how to navigate systems that weren't built for them. They learn how to code switch, how to change the way they speak, dress, or act, depending on where they are and who's watching. They learn how to find allies, how to build networks of support, how to stand up for themselves and for each other. They learn that education is not just about getting ahead, but about survival, about dignity, about the hope that things can be different. Friendship is another layer. For some Black kids, growing up means being the only Black face in a classroom, a neighborhood, or a team. It means learning how to answer questions about your hair, your family, your music, your food. It means deciding when to speak up and when to let things slide. It means carrying the weight of representation, feeling like you have to be the good one, the smart one, the safe one. For others, it means growing up in a community where everyone looks like you, where you don't have to explain yourself, where you can just be. Both experiences come with their own challenges and gifts. Family is at the center of it all. For many Black kids, family is everything, a source of strength, wisdom, and unconditional love. It's where you learn who you are and where you come from. It's where you hear the stories of ancestors who survived, who thrived, who made a way out of no way. It's where you learn the rules of the world and the rules for surviving in it. But family can also be a source of pressure. The expectations are high. The pressure to succeed, to make your people proud, to carry the dreams of generations. The fear of letting people down can be heavy, and the need to be strong can make it hard to ask for help. The world outside is always watching. Growing up Black in America means knowing that you are visible, but not always seen. It means knowing that your mistakes might be judged more harshly, that your successes might be questioned, that your very presence can make people uncomfortable. It means learning how to navigate spaces where you are both hypervisible and invisible at the same time. It means learning how to protect yourself, how to read a room, how to stay safe. But it also means learning how to shine. Black kids grow up learning how to turn adversity into art, how to find joy in the midst of struggle, how to build community in the face of exclusion. They learn how to dream big, how to fight for justice, how to love themselves in a world that doesn't always love them back. They learn that being Black in America is not just a challenge. It's a gift, a source of pride, a reason to keep going.
The truth about growing up Black in America is that it's a constant negotiation between pride and pain, hope and fear, belonging and exclusion. Every day is a lesson in resilience, whether you realize it or not. You learn to celebrate the wins, big and small, because you know how hard they are to come by. You learn to find humor in the absurd, to find beauty in the ordinary, and to find strength in the stories of those who came before you. But you also learn to brace yourself for the moments when the world reminds you that your skin is a target, that your joy is sometimes seen as a threat, and that your dreams are not always protected. One of the most unfiltered truths is the way Black kids are forced to grow up fast. There's a loss of innocence that comes with learning about racism not as a concept, but as a lived reality. Maybe it's the first time you're called a slur, or the first time you see someone who looks like you treated unfairly. Maybe it's the first time you realize that the police, who are supposed to protect you, might not see you as someone worth protecting. These moments are confusing, frightening, and often isolating. You look to the adults in your life for answers, but sometimes they don't have them. Sometimes all they can offer is a hug, a warning, or a prayer. But there's also a fierce determination that comes from these experiences. Black kids learn early that they have to be twice as good to get half as far. They learn to work harder, to dream bigger, to never give up. They learn to find mentors, to build networks, to support each other. They learn that their success is not just about them, it's about their families, their communities, and the generations that will come after them. This sense of responsibility can be heavy, but it can also be empowering. It's a reminder that you are part of something bigger than yourself. The media plays a huge role in shaping how Black kids see themselves and how they're seen by others. Too often, the images are negative, stories of crime, poverty, or violence. Rarely do you see the full range of Black life, the scholars, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the everyday heroes. When you do see positive images, they can feel like exceptions rather than the rule. This lack of representation can make it hard to imagine what's possible. But when you do see someone who looks like you achieving great things, it's powerful. It's a reminder that you can do it too. Social media is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a place to find community, to share your story, to connect with others who understand. On the other hand, it's a place where racism can be amplified, where trolls and haters can find you no matter where you are. Black kids learn to navigate these spaces with caution, to curate their feeds, to block and report when necessary. They learn to use their voices, but also to protect their peace. School is a microcosm of the larger world. For some Black kids, it's a place of opportunity, a chance to excel, to find mentors, to build a future. For others, it's a place of constant struggle. The curriculum often ignores or distorts Black history. The teachers may not understand or value your experience, and the rules are not always applied equally. Discipline is harsher, expectations are lower, and the support is often lacking. But Black kids find ways to succeed anyway. They join clubs, start organizations, and create their own spaces of belonging. They learn to advocate for themselves and for others. Friendships can be complicated. Sometimes you're the only Black kid in your group, and you have to decide how much of yourself to share. Do you explain your hair, your music, your food? Do you speak up when someone says something ignorant, or do you let it slide to keep the peace? Other times you're surrounded by people who look like you, and you can just be. Both experiences come with their own challenges and rewards. You learn to navigate different worlds, to code switch, to find your tribe. Family is both a refuge and a source of pressure. There's love, support, and pride, but also high expectations. You're taught to be strong, to succeed, to make your people proud. You're reminded of the sacrifices that were made for you, and you feel the weight of that legacy. Sometimes it's hard to ask for help, to admit when you're struggling because you don't want to let anyone down. But family is also where you learn resilience, where you hear the stories of survival, where you find the strength to keep going. The world outside is unpredictable. Sometimes you're celebrated for your talent, your intelligence, your creativity. Other times you're underestimated, ignored, or even feared. You learn to read a room, to sense when you're welcome and when you're not. You learn to protect yourself, to stay alert, to move with caution. But you also learn to shine, to take up space, and demand to be seen. Growing up Black in America is a journey of contradictions. It's about learning to love yourself in a world that doesn't always love you back. It's about finding joy in the midst of struggle, about building community in the face of exclusion, about dreaming big even when the odds are against you. It's about turning pain into power, and about never letting anyone else define your worth. There's a unique kind of wisdom that comes from growing up Black in America, a wisdom that's earned through experience, observation, and survival. It's the wisdom of knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to push back and when to walk away. It's the wisdom of understanding that not every battle is yours to fight, but that some battles are too important to ignore. This wisdom is passed down from generation to generation, sometimes in words, sometimes in glances, sometimes in the quiet rituals of daily life. You learn early that your presence is political, whether you want it to be or not. The way you dress, the way you talk, the way you move through the world, all of it is scrutinized, interpreted, and sometimes weaponized. You learn to anticipate questions and comments, to prepare for the possibility of being misunderstood or misrepresented. You learn to carry yourself with confidence, even when you're nervous, because you know that people are watching. You learn to be careful, but you also learn to be bold. There's a constant tension between wanting to fit in and wanting to stand out. For some, fitting in means code switching, adapting your language, your style, your interests to match the dominant culture. It means learning to navigate spaces where you are the only one, and where your difference is both a curiosity and a challenge. For others, standing out is a source of pride. It's about embracing your culture, your history, your uniqueness. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Both approaches require courage, and both come with risks. The pressure to succeed is real. You're told that you have to be twice as good to get half as far, that you have to work harder, be smarter, and never make a mistake. You're reminded of the sacrifices your family made, of the doors that were closed to them, of the opportunities they never had. You feel the weight of their hopes and dreams, and you don't want to let them down. This pressure can be motivating, but it can also be overwhelming. It can make it hard to ask for help, to admit when you're struggling, to take a break. Mental health is a topic that's often whispered about if it's talked about at all. There's a stigma around therapy, around admitting to anxiety or depression, around needing support. You're taught to be strong, to keep going, to handle your business. But the reality is that the stress of growing up Black in America can take a toll. The microaggressions, the discrimination, the constant vigilance, it all adds up. More and more Black youth are breaking the silence, seeking help, and supporting each other. They're learning that strength isn't just about enduring pain, but about healing, about rest, about joy. Joy is a form of resistance. In a world that tries to steal your happiness, finding reasons to celebrate is an act of defiance. Black kids learn to find joy in music, in dance, in art, in laughter. They learn to create beauty out of struggle, to turn pain into poetry, to make something out of nothing. They learn that joy is not just a reward for surviving, but a tool for thriving. It's what keeps you going when the world feels heavy, what connects you to your community, what reminds you that you are more than your circumstances. Community is everything. Whether it's family, friends, church, or neighborhood, community is where you find belonging, support, and love. It's where you learn the values that guide you, the stories that shape you, the traditions that ground you. Community is where you go when you need help, when you need to celebrate, when you need to grieve. It's where you learn that you are never alone, that your struggles are shared, that your victories are collective. But community can also be a source of challenge. There are expectations to meet, roles to play, and sometimes judgments to face. There's pressure to succeed, to represent, to give back. There are disagreements, misunderstandings, and conflicts. But even in the midst of these challenges, community is a source of strength. It's where you learn to forgive, to compromise, and to grow. The journey of growing up Black in America is not a straight line. It's full of twists and turns, setbacks and breakthroughs, heartbreak and hope. It's about learning to navigate a world that is often unfair, but also full of possibility. It's about finding your voice, your purpose, your place. It's about honoring the past, living in the present, and dreaming about the future. What's unfiltered about this experience is the honesty, the willingness to talk about the hard stuff, to name the pain, to celebrate the joy, to hold space for all the contradictions. It's about telling the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, and about listening to the truths of others. It's about refusing to be defined by stereotypes, by statistics, by other people's expectations. It's about writing your own story in your own words on your own terms.
There's a reality to growing up Black in America that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't lived it. It's the feeling of being both invisible and hypervisible at the same time. You can walk into a room and feel like no one sees you, but also feel the weight of every eye, every expectation, every stereotype. It's the knowledge that your actions might be judged not just as your own, but as a reflection of your entire community. It's the pressure to be perfect, to never slip, to always represent. This duality shows up everywhere. In school, you might be the only Black student in your advanced classes, and you feel the need to prove you belonged. If you speak up, you risk being labeled aggressive or loud. If you stay quiet, you risk being overlooked. You learn to walk a tightrope, to balance confidence with caution, to assert yourself without drawing too much attention. You learn to read people, to sense when you're being underestimated or when someone is waiting for you to fail. In public spaces, you're always aware of how you're perceived. You think twice before lingering in a store, before raising your voice, before wearing a hoodie at night. You know that a simple misunderstanding can escalate, that a routine traffic stop can turn dangerous. You learn to keep your hands visible, to be polite even when you're angry, to memorize your rights just in case. These are lessons that are passed down like family heirlooms, not because anyone wants to, but because it's necessary. But there's also a deep pride in who you are. You learn to love your skin, your hair, your history. You learn to celebrate your culture, to find beauty in your roots, to honor the people who came before you. You learn that Blackness is not a monolith. It's a spectrum, a mosaic, a world of possibilities. You see the brilliance of Black artists, the genius of Black scientists, the leadership of Black activists. You realize that you are part of a legacy of excellence, resilience, and creativity. Friendships take on a special meaning. When you find people who understand your experience, who get your jokes, who know your struggles, it's a bond like no other. You build your own chosen family, people who lift you up, who call you out, who have your back. These friendships are a lifeline, a source of joy and support in a world that can feel isolating. You learn to cherish these connections, to nurture them, to show up for each other. But you also learn to navigate friendships across lines of difference. You might have friends who don't look like you, who don't understand what it's like to be Black in America. You learn to explain, to educate, to forgive, but also to set boundaries. You learn that not everyone will get it, and that's okay. You learn to protect your peace, to prioritize your well-being, to walk away from relationships that drain you. Family is both a foundation and a challenge. There's love, tradition, and support, but also expectations, secrets, and sometimes pain. You might feel pressure to succeed, to be the one who makes it, to carry the hopes of your family. You might struggle with generational trauma, with the weight of history, with the scars of racism that don't heal in a single lifetime. But you also inherit strength, wisdom, and a sense of purpose.
You learn that you are never alone, that you are part of something bigger than yourself. The world outside is unpredictable. Some days you feel unstoppable, confident, creative, full of possibility. Other days you feel tired, frustrated, or afraid. You learn to ride the waves, to find balance, to take care of yourself. You learn that it's okay to rest, to ask for help, to be vulnerable. You learn that self-care is not selfish, it's survival. You also learn to dream. Despite the obstacles, despite the pain, you hold on to hope. You imagine a future where you are free to be yourself, where your worth is not questioned, where your dreams are not limited by other people's fears. You dream of a world where Black kids can just be kids, where they don't have to carry the weight of history, where they can grow up safe, loved, and free. Growing up Black in America is a journey of contradictions. It's about learning to navigate a world that is both beautiful and brutal, welcoming and hostile, full of promise and full of peril. It's about finding your voice, your tribe, your purpose. It's about turning pain into power, struggle into strength, and hope into action. What's unfiltered about this experience is the honesty, the willingness to talk about the hard stuff, to name the pain, to celebrate the joy, to hold space for all the contradictions. It's about telling the truth even when it's uncomfortable and about listening to the truths of others. It's about refusing to be defined by stereotypes, by statistics, by other people's expectations. It's about writing your own story in your own words on your own terms.
There's a quiet strength that comes from growing up Black in America, a strength that's forged in the small moments as much as the big ones. It's in the way you learn to laugh at things that aren't funny, to find joy in places others overlook, to keep moving forward even when the world tries to hold you back. It's in the way you learn to celebrate yourself, to take pride in your accomplishments, to love your reflection even when society tells you not to. This strength is not just about survival. It's about thriving, about building a life that is full, rich, and meaningful. You learn to be resourceful. Maybe your school doesn't have the latest technology or the best facilities, but you make the most of what you have. You find mentors in unexpected places, a coach, a neighbor, a church leader. You learn to hustle, to create opportunities, to turn setbacks into comebacks. You see your parents, your grandparents, your elders doing the same, and you realize that resilience is in your blood. You learn to be creative. Black culture is a wellspring of innovation, from music to fashion to language. You see how your community takes what's available and turns it into something new, something beautiful. You learn to express yourself through art, through dance, through words. You see how creativity can be a form of resistance, a way to claim space, a way to tell your story on your own terms. You learn to be hopeful. Even when the news is bad, even when the odds are long, you hold on to hope. You see the progress that has been made, the barriers that have been broken, the dreams that have come true. You know that change is possible because you've seen it happen. You believe in the power of your voice, your vote, your actions. You believe that you can make a difference, not just for yourself, but for those who come after you. But you also learn to be cautious. You know that not everyone will celebrate your success, that some will resent it or try to undermine it. You learn to protect your dreams, to share them only with those who will nurture them. You learn to move in silence when necessary, to keep your plans close until they're ready to be revealed. You learn that trust is earned, not given, and that loyalty is a precious gift. You learn to be forgiving. You see the ways that racism, poverty, and trauma can shape people's actions, and you learn to have compassion for others and for yourself. You learn that healing is a process, that it takes time, that it's okay to ask for help. You learn to let go of grudges, to seek reconciliation, to build bridges where you can. You learn that forgiveness is not about forgetting, but about freeing yourself from the weight of anger and pain. You learn to be proud. Proud of your heritage, your culture, your community. Proud of the way you carry yourself, the way you show up, the way you keep going. You learn to celebrate your wins, to honor your journey, to recognize your worth. You learn that pride is not arrogance. It's a necessary antidote to a world that tries to diminish you. You learn to be loving. You see the power of love in your family, your friendships, your community. You learn that love is not just a feeling, but a practice, a way of showing up, of supporting, of caring. You learn that love can heal wounds, bridge divides, and create possibilities. You learn that loving yourself is the foundation for loving others. You learn to be free. Free to define yourself, free to pursue your dreams, free to live on your own terms. You learn that freedom is not given, it's claimed, it's fought for, it's protected. You learn that your freedom is tied to the freedom of others. Then none of us are free until all of us are free. You learn that the struggle for freedom is ongoing, but that every step forward matters. Growing up Black in America is a masterclass in resilience, creativity, and hope. It's about learning to navigate a world that is often unfair, but also full of possibility. It's about finding your voice, your tribe, your purpose. It's about turning pain into power, struggle into strength, and hope into action. What's unfiltered about this experience is the honesty, the willingness to talk about the hard stuff, to name the pain, to celebrate the joy, to hold space for all the contradictions. It's about telling the truth even when it's uncomfortable, and about listening to the truth of others. It's about refusing to be defined by stereotypes, by statistics, by other people's expectations. It's about writing your own story in your words on your terms.